Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease which is believed to be caused by two main proteins called tau and amyloids, where tau builds up in clumps within the neurons and amyloids create plaque throughout the brain, causing it to become impaired and memory loss to occur. Due to Alzheimer's, there is not a response to these toxins, the disease continues to worsen, and neurons continue to be damaged and deteriorate, causing connections between them to fail and brain regions to shrink, found by the National Institute on Aging. Alzheimer's is a fairly common disease, which becomes more prevalent with people as they age, with more cases related to those of older age. There are several genes which have been identified to have an effect on Alzheimer's disease, but only two of them which have a greatly increased chance of developing it, whereas the others are still being studied due to facts from SNPedia. There are variations within the gene APO and TREM2. The function of APO is to regulate cholesterol in the bloodstream, and the gene is expressed in the microglia protein. The TREM2 gene is supposed to interact with protein in microglia to trigger phagocytosis of amyloid beta peptides in apoptic neurons without inflammation. It makes sense that variations in these genes would cause issues in the brain, where there's been research done on APO, where it's found that the variations can cause inflammation and damage neurons. TREM2 being much more obvious, since improperly performing microglia will allow the buildup of tau and amyloid proteins to go unchecked, which will deteriorate the brain.
We will be testing for two specific variations, RS429538 and RS7593268, which have the highest chances of increasing likelihood of developing the disease, being over 3 times and 3.5 times respectively compared to those without the variations. The variation RS429538 causes the APO gene not to function correctly and causes neuroinflammation to occur in the brain, which damages neurons which cannot be replaced. The protein microglia is therefore unable to function correctly. The RS7593268 is a variation of the TREM2 gene, which is supposed to cause microglia to seek out dangerous compounds and destroy them without causing inflammation, sort of like a lysosome in the cell. So when the variation occurs, it allows proteins tau and beta amyloids to accumulate in the neurons and causes breakdown of communication between them, causing damage and memory loss, which is a common symptom of Alzheimer's. Genetic testing reveals mutations in the genes that would cause any illness or disease. It is important to get this testing because it provides important information on diagnosing, treating, and preventing. The genetic test we will be searching for two variations, RS429538 and RS7593268. There is strong evidence that connects these variations and Alzheimer's disease. There has been scientific studies that prove not having those two genetic variations significantly increases the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. When a person tests positive for the variation RS429538, this basically means they have more than 3 times the risk of having Alzheimer's disease and a very high chance of getting early onset Alzheimer's than compared to late onset Alzheimer's. When a person tests positive for RS7593268, they have a significantly increased risk of late onset Alzheimer's disease. When this genetic variation is found, there is a high chance that if they aren't diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, they still may develop very poor cognitive functions. Being able to diagnose it early allows patients to discuss options with professionals about how to move forward.
There are some scientific reasons that justify not taking the test. For starters, unlike a disease like breast cancer, which has few definite genes indicators, there are several indicator genes for Alzheimer's, some of which have not been discovered yet. This means that a patient will have to get several tests, which could be costly. In addition, unlike breast cancer, there are not any significant science-based preventative measures for Alzheimer's disease, so the test could potentially be seen as a waste of money. Finally, the most indicative SNP is TREM2, RS7593268, which increases the risk of Alzheimer's by 3.5 times. While this is significant, it is definitely not a guarantee that someone with a SNP will 100% have Alzheimer's. Therefore, it could potentially be argued that getting tested and receiving a positive outcome would invoke stress and anxiety that could potentially be unnecessary. Furthermore, some people may not want to know that they will likely develop Alzheimer's. Since it's incurable, one might not want to spend the remaining time before symptoms occur stressing about what might happen to them. This stress could push someone to start unhealthy habits in order to cope, even if the results of the test could be wrong, and they end up don't developing disease as they get older. There's also the effect of the diagnosis on those who are close to the patient taking the test. So the results of the test are not only affecting those who are diagnosed, but their family as well. Perhaps if someone does not have health insurance, they might just not want to know because their medical costs could be immense, and when they died, that would pass on the debt to their family. Thank you for watching. I think we nailed it.